How's it going? I hope y'all are having an absolutely amazing day because today we have a video that I'm going to be reacting to called Gaming is Dying and We Are to Blame. And it comes from someone that goes by the name of McStan. Now, this is a very popular opinion here on YouTube. If you search modern gaming, you are going to find countless videos basically saying the exact same thing that this guy is going to say in his video. Because the truth is, gaming is not dying. Gaming is more popular than it's ever been. It's just a lot of people kind of grow out of the hobby. Anyway, let's just get into the video, dude.
Has this ever happened to you? You really have the strong urge to play a video game.
Okay, so I already noticed one issue with this video here. You have Call of Duty Vanguard installed. That should be a crime. Because that game is a heaping pile of shit.
So you boot up your system, and you head over to your game library, and once you are here, you just scroll through all of your games. And you might do this a few times. And while you're in here for a few minutes, you're just staring at these games, and you realize something. You're like, you know what? Nah, I'm gonna watch Netflix instead.
Usually I never struggle to find something to play. Like when I don't know what to play, I'll boot up an older game and just install a mod I haven't used before, or maybe multiple mods. I mean, hell, I still play Doom from 1993 pretty much every single day because of the amount of mods that are on it. It's my go-to game when I don't know what to play. Also, I noticed a lot of the games on your list were just the popular games at the moment, the big AAA games. You should try out some more indie games.
This is something that has become way too common as of recently for gamers, where we want to play something, but instead of actually playing something, there's nothing actually that we want to play.
It seems like you got bored of the games that are on your library, but what you could do is go ahead and buy some brand new games and test them out. Hell, if you don't like the game, if you're on Steam anyway, you can just refund if you played less than 2 hours. I've never done a refund on console, but I'm assuming it's somewhat similar. But let's say you can't refund for some reason and you don't want to spend money. There's tons of free games out there that you can play as well.
And instead, we'll watch a movie or watch a TV show, and it's simply because either the games aren't that good, or the games are stagnant, and the playing is kind of just boring. And it brings up the question, is gaming dying, or is gaming already dead?
Gaming is more popular now than it's ever been. So many people are getting into gaming every single day at a faster rate than ever before. So to say that gaming is dying or already dead is extremely disingenuous.
And these are statements and questions I hear all the time from gamers and viewers of this channel.
If you're not enjoying gaming and you can't find any games to play, try taking a break from gaming for like a couple weeks and then come back. That should fix the problem. Because if you are to partake in a certain hobby over and over and over again for, I don't know, 15 years straight, of course you're gonna start to get bored of it.
Why are games so stagnant? Why don't I feel like playing video games? And I think it comes down to it's because of us, the consumer of these video games. It's our fault why games are no longer good.
Yes, it is your fault if you're not enjoying gaming anymore. It's because you got bored of the hobby. And to say that games aren't good anymore is a complete lie, considering we had recent games come out like Elden Ring, Tears of the Kingdom, etc.
Let me explain this. When developers make a video game nowadays, it's not because they're trying to make a good game.
Okay, but how do you know that? How do you know that every single developer does not care about making a good game? I mean, there are amazing games that get created by like 3 people in their basement that barely makes them any money, and they're doing it because they enjoy making the game and they want to make a good game.
It's all about money.
Well, no shit.
I mean, that's how business works. It's always been about money, and it always will be about money. If they weren't making any money by creating games, where would they get the money to put into each game? How could they justify making games all the time if they're not going to make any money? Who has the spare time to do that? The world is run by money, it's just how it works.
Developers are trying to cash in on what's going to bring the most money.
Once again, that is the entire point of a business, is to make money. Also, if they're a publicly traded company, they have to do everything they can to make as much money as possible to please their shareholders.
With the least amount of effort. And this is where the problem lies. Developers actually don't have to make a good product to sell a ton of copies.
That's not exactly the case though, because when games like Forspoken and Redfall came out, they were really shitty games, and because of it, they didn't sell very well. If a game is just objectively a heap of shit, nobody's gonna stick around to play it, and it's not gonna make them any money.
All they have to do is have a big name and maybe a huge content creator backing them, and all of a sudden, this game is super hyped, everybody wants to get it, even though they know it's gonna be bad. Just think about it, guys. When we talk about a game like Call of Duty, this game comes out every single year, and collectively, as a whole, gamers kinda agree that Call of Duty isn't that good.
I mean, Call of Duty has been getting mixed reviews for pretty much forever now. I remember Black Ops 2 had like a 5.2 on Metacritic. It's always been popular to shit on COD, but I will admit that the recent few COD titles, at least to me, have been kinda underwhelming.
Honestly, I think Call of Duty is the perfect example of this. Call of Duty is a game that is released every single year, and actually, it is one of the top-selling games of the year every time it's released.
Because it is super easy to pick up and play. There is a very easy learning curve. You don't even have to be good at the game anymore because skill-based matchmaking will put you in lobbies where it tries to get you a 1.0 KD. So even if you're like the biggest fucking moron who's been like kicked in the head by a horse, you can still enjoy Call of Duty, and that's why it sells so well. And for the people out there who say skill-based matchmaking isn't real, I decided to drink one night, and the next day when I got on the game, the people I was facing were the biggest morons in the world. Like those players make Nadia at the MW2 LAN event look like a god.
And simply because everybody buys the game because it's so popular, even though everybody collectively says that they don't like Call of Duty. It's kind of strange to me that people flock to games like this and they actually buy them every single year knowing that the game isn't actually that good.
But you haven't given a reason as to why the game is bad, and keep in mind, I'm not someone who's even really enjoyed the recent Call of Duties.
We are literally, as a consumer, enabling these developers to not try their hardest and bring us a quality product simply because they are selling millions of copies every single year and it's all our fault. And honestly, if we wanted these games to be better, all we have to do is not buy them, but it's never gonna happen because people are sheep.
Okay, so I'm not trying to white knight for COD because I think the recent entries have been pretty fucking boring. However, if people do not buy the games and support the company, where is the company gonna get money to put into more games? Also, a lot of the problems with Call of Duty, like the giant maps, the too many camping spaces, skill-based matchmaking, etc., only really affects us players who are actually, like, good at the game. Like, if you're shit, you're not gonna notice it, dude. You're gonna be in your shitter lobby having an absolute blast. You'll be sat in your corner with your thermal-scoped LMG just having the best time of your life, dude. And as someone who's pretty good at Call of Duty, I'm not great, but I said this ain't for me, and I switched to other shooter games. There are other shooters out there besides Call of Duty that you can get into.
And they follow the herd, and they follow what is trending.
Ironically, it's kind of the popular thing to do right now to make a video on why gaming is dead, so by that logic, you would be a sheep.
So of course, when we talk about video games dying, we the consumer play a massive role in this, but we're not the only reason why gaming is dying as a whole. Let's talk about new IPs or brand new video games and how they steal ideas from everyone else. There is no more originality when it comes to game development.
How do you know there's no original games coming out, dude? I mean, Ultra Kill was pretty original. The idea I don't think has been used before, where you shoot enemies and you bathe in their blood to regenerate your health. That's a new idea. That's an original concept.
And this brings us back to that statement we made earlier about gaming feeling a little bit stagnant and stale. Every single video game nowadays is copying each other. There's no more originality.
Not everything has to be 100% original. It's okay for some games to get some inspiration from another game. Like even Elden Ring, they said they used inspiration from Zelda, so you don't always have to reinvent the wheel to make a good game.
Just think about how many battle royales there actually are right now.
I want to bring you guys back to the start of the video and show you something. So you're not a fan of all the Battle Royale games, you think it's unoriginal. However,
Has this ever happened to you? You really have the strong urge to play a video game, so you boot up your system.
if you count Fall Guys as a Battle Royale, you have 6 Battle Royale games on your library. And you don't like Battle Royale. Of course you're gonna find gaming boring. You gotta try some different genres, my guy. Like, I get these games are popular or whatever, but you don't always have to play what's popular.
We have Fortnite, we have Apex Legends, we have PUBG, and there are many more.
But Fortnite, PUBG, and Apex Legends are not the only video games out there. There are tons of great games that came out around the same time as those games. I mean, Sekiro came out around that time, and it won Game of the Year.
Everybody is just copying everybody. There's no originality. They all make the same game with their own twist on it.
If every single game out there had to reinvent the wheel, we would run out of ideas. We would run out of games.
And it kind of makes me miss the good old days, the golden era, in my opinion, the Xbox 360 and PlayStation 3 days.
The thing is, that literally happened back then too, with games copying each other. Do you remember all the Minecraft ripoffs that came out? How about when Call of Duty Modern Warfare came out to compete with Halo and try to steal some of its players? This whole quote-unquote games copying each other trend has been around forever. Back in the 90s, it was arena shooters that everyone was making.
In my honest opinion, this truly was the greatest time to be a gamer. We had so many great titles releasing during this time, and everything felt brand new and refreshing. No one was copying each other.
And I mean, this is just a flat out lie. Do you remember all those shitty Xbox Avatar games that came out that were basically just ripoffs of other games?
No one was trying to one-up their competition by making the same game just with a few improvements.
Once again, Call of Duty Modern Warfare was created to compete with Halo, so that's just not the case.
Everything was original, and I think that's a huge problem with modern gaming today. Everyone's just copying each other. There's no more originality. We had games like Metal Gear Solid, Halo.
Once again, when Halo was extremely popular, Call of Duty literally came out to try to compete with it, so that's just not the case, once again.
Gears of War, Forza, Skyrim, I can go on and on. The 360, PlayStation 3, and I guess you can even put the Wii in there. This era of gaming is unmatched in my opinion.
I disagree with most of your video, but this is one thing I will absolutely agree on. The Wii/360/PlayStation 3 era truly is unmatched, especially because game chat was so popular and you never knew what you were going to hear in those chat lobbies.
Now, of course, gaming has changed and the landscape has changed, and really all people want nowadays is a good multiplayer game.
I'm actually the exact opposite. I still play Elden Ring from time to time. For me, single-player games are better because you can even mod them when you get bored of the vanilla game, but you can't do that on a multiplayer game. You also never have to worry about hackers, you never have to worry about skill-based matchmaking, you never have to worry about lag. I think your problem is you're only willing to play multiplayer games. You should really give some more single-player/co-op games a shot. Because when you showed your list of games there at the beginning of the video, pretty much every single one was multiplayer.
So these single player games, even though they are high caliber games that we get nowadays, they are not going to change anything. They're not going to change the gaming landscape, right?
If people only want a multiplayer game, then how come games like Elden Ring, Ultra Kill, games like that, are doing so well? You have like Wolong Fallen Dynasty. You have Hogwarts Legacy. There are so many good single-player games coming out, but you aren't willing to give them a shot.
We did have two very, very good games released recently this year. Those being Elden Ring and God of War Ragnarok. And of course, these two games are up for the Game of the Year award. But, like I said, multiplayer games are what are running the gaming industry right now.
Multiplayer games are not quote-unquote running the industry. There are tons of good single-player games that perform amazingly as well. It's just some people are stuck to multiplayer, and then they will say things like gaming is dead, gaming is dying. because you don't try single player games. And besides that, there are good multiplayer games out there. A lot of the people who say quote unquote gaming is dead only play popular games. Maybe you should try out some more indie slash niche games.
And we truly need something innovative when it comes to a multiplayer game.
Why does it have to be multiplayer? See, this is the problem. All you care about are multiplayer games, so you're not willing to give good single player games a shot, and then you're gonna call gaming dead because those multiplayer games that you do play are dog shit.
Now, I'm not saying that we don't need these single-player games, because they are amazing, and when I think about the greatest games I've ever played, they are all single-player games. Now, the problem is that when you play these single-player games, you only play through them a few times, and then you move on to something else.
The statement he just made right there, single player games, you usually play through them once and then you move on to something else, is just completely false. You can take a look at a game like Doom from 1993. There's still custom maps being made for that and custom mods being made for that game every single day. And it's a single player game. Even the game I have in the background, Left 4 Dead 2, you can play single player. I only play this game single player, and there's tons of new mods for me to play around with every single day, despite the game being single player and released in like 2011. Not only that, but some games are meant to be played through one time and then move on, and some games are meant to be played through multiple times.
And that's just the nature of single-player games. Unfortunately, they're a game that just isn't going to keep you around forever like a multiplayer game will. And that's where gaming really is dying.
I noticed you mentioned earlier in this video about how nothing is original anymore and there's no originality, but yet here you are playing a game that's like a ripoff of Super Smash Bros.
We need some sort of multiplayer game.
Man, fuck your multiplayer. We don't need the game to be multiplayer, we just need a good game, whether it's single player or multiplayer.
That's gonna come by and just change things and make everybody go like, okay, this is the game I want to play. This is the game that I just think about nonstop. I cannot wait to wake up and play this game, and there really is just nothing like that in today's landscape.
Is this guy just completely forgetting that Elden Ring just recently came out not that long ago? Or, once again, Tears of the Kingdom recently came out? I think the reason you don't like gaming or think it's dying is because you just have a hard-on for multiplayer games and won't try any single-player games.
So at the end of the day, it falls back onto us, the consumer, again. Because all these issues that I just listed are because of us and because we enable these developers to continue with these types of actions. We're the reason why there are unoriginal ideas, because why would a developer want to make something new when all the old stuff is still selling, right?
And I'm gonna bring up again that not everything has to be 100% brand new. It's okay to borrow some ideas from other games and movies and things like that. And there are games coming out with original ideas, you just might not see them on the front of the PlayStation Store. You have to look around for them.
It doesn't matter if people's playing it or not, they're still making money. So they're going to keep making the same sequels over and over. They're going to keep copying each other because it's what sells. And when it comes down to it, money is the reason why video games are made. It's not about passion anymore.
You know those things are not mutually exclusive, right? Like a developer can create a passionate project that also generates them a lot of money. And the consumer can usually notice when a lot of passion goes into a project that the developers make.
So, us the consumer, we are the ones who have to change things, and we are the ones who are going to have to let the developers know that we don't want the same game over and over. We want something new and innovative, and it's never going to happen unless we stop buying these games.
I'm sorry, but I find it incredibly cringy when people say things like, we as consumers have to put our foot down, or like some shit like that. And you mentioned that you're not going to stand for unoriginal games or whatever, but here you are playing an unoriginal Smash Bros. Clone in the background.
And stop giving these developers our money. So, with the development process out of the way, and the consumer buying these unoriginal games out of the way, let's talk about you the player and why you might feel bored or you might feel gaming is stale or dying.
Well, there's a few possibilities. Either you grew up and grew out of the hobby, which is completely normal, it's just a part of life. Two, you just aren't looking in the right place for the games. Or three, I don't know, you just are burnt out on gaming and need to take a break from it.
And I think it's really simple. There's two things to think about here. The first thing is you have gotten older, and the older you get, the more responsibility in life you have, the less time you have to play video games, and there just are more important things to do in life than play video games for many people.
Well, no shit.
Okay, but using that example, just because you grow older and can't play games as much doesn't mean they're going to be less fun when you do play them. Like, you'd have the same amount of enjoyment playing those games, it's just you aren't going to be able to play them as much.
Now, this also goes back to most games are the same, but you're just at a time in your life where there are other priorities. There are things that just, are more important to you. Okay, so that's the first thing.
But just because you grew older and started getting more responsibilities, how does that mean gaming is dying or already dead, like you stated in your title?
And it's kind of obvious. You're older, you have other things to do. Maybe you have a family, maybe you have some kids to take care of, you have a job, things like that. The second thing is a little bit different, and this one's also kind of obvious, and you probably haven't thought about it, but it's most gamers only play one type of game.
There is a bit of truth to this, like I mentioned earlier, with people who only play multiplayer games and then start to complain that gaming is dead. Same goes for other types of games, like people who only play shooter games, or people who only play puzzle games, or maybe somebody who only plays racing games. Of course, eventually, you're just gonna get bored of it.
So for instance, if you only play shooters, and that's the only type of game that you ever play, of course you're going to be burnt out on these shooters, and you're going to feel like the playing field has gotten a little stagnant. It's because you're playing all these shooters, and in reality, they're all going to be very similar. So maybe broaden your horizon to other games like RPGs, sports games, or maybe even some scary games.
Alright, this is probably the one thing that I'll agree with him on, is, yeah, there are a lot of people who just refuse to try games of other genres, and then they say gaming is boring, and that's completely their fault. So I guess this is like a rare McStan W?
And this goes for every genre of game. If you only play one genre of game, of course you're going to get burnt out on it, and of course you're going to get bored of it. You need to try other things out. There are so many games out there to be only playing one genre of game.
While I 100% agree with what he's saying right now, if you look hard enough, you can find endless amounts of enjoyment in a certain genre. Like, I never run out of shooter games to play. Because I don't only play the new games, I don't only play multiplayer games. I'll play a single player shooter, a multiplayer shooter, an older shooter, a modded shooter, etc.
And this kind of leads me into another issue with gaming and why developers don't want to try new things. It's because of us, the consumer, and us, the player. We only play certain types of games, and they don't really want to pour their resources into a game that's just not going to sell.
Well, no shit.
I mean, he does kind of have a point here. However, there are some studios out there who are not afraid to try new things, and if the game fails, then oh well.
So when it comes down to it, I do believe that us, the consumer, play a huge role in why we think gaming is dead.
But the question is, do we all think gaming is dead? Because personally, I don't think so. I don't know, y'all leave it down in the comment section below. Do y'all think it's dead or not? And from here on out, he just talks about the lack of originality again, so I'm gonna go ahead and wrap the video up here. It's not a terrible video, but I still disagree with it, so I decided to go ahead and make a response. If you guys enjoyed, make sure to smash that like button. If you don't, make sure to smash that dislike button and leave a mean comment. And yeah, peace.